Welcome to Let's Not Talk About the Husband.
Here we go again. Okay.
Yeah.
But today we're going to talk about that thing that comes up at dinner parties when there's not much to talk about and you're with people you don't know very well, and they turn to you and after a long silence, they say, "How did you two meet?" Which is kind of the standard thing you do when you don't really know what to say to people you don't know very well. And it's always a lifesaver when somebody says that, because you got a story, right?
Well, nobody ever asked me that.
Really?
No.
Well, every time we
at
go
a dinner party,
when we go out to dinner with people, let's say, okay,
I wanted to agree with you, but I was like, I don't think anyone has asked me that in that.
Here's the thing. So let's say we have people that we don't know very well. They're parents of the kids at school. And we go out and we happen to find ourselves at dinner with them, and we don't know them at all, but it's a real good sort of catchphrase. Hey, how did you two meet?
Well, I still don't, I can't recall any of that, but I can recall the other couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, when we were in Cayman with the kids and their friends, the Blairs, and they asked us about the story of how we met.
So there you go. We were sitting at dinner.
Yeah, so I can
with people
relate to
we didn't know
that.
that well, and they asked us how we met. So that's what happens.
It was our children and their children, our children and their friends growing up that we've known for their whole lives. So we know them very well.
And what great humans they turned into, too. We're so lucky and so happy about that. But going back to the sort of the OG, the origin story of Harry and Lisa, which we've told a lot of times, so we can tell it. We know that story. It comes out pretty quickly these days.
It was fun, I think, telling the kids, the Blairs, let's just call them the Blairs, the kids and the Blairs.
Yeah.
It was fun to tell that story because they're of an age, because they're all 22 to 26.
They're getting into relationships now.
It was cute. They paid attention. They really listened. I don't think they ever would have really paid attention or cared before. So it was cute. I thought it was really a sweet moment.
It was a great moment. And relationships are so interesting. And so, I mean, there's so many minefields in relationships. And somehow here we are 30 some odd years later.
32.
After that one moment when we first laid eyes on each other.
But it's so miraculous because, okay, let's just lay it out. You had a baby mama and 2 wives.
Okay.
Do you see
my teeth?
Yes. I'm going to get you to smile in this podcast. My goal is just to get you to smile.
Okay.
So, I mean, we have to really lay it out. I know it makes you so uncomfortable. I kind of love to make you squirm, though.
Okay, I'm squirming.
So, there's a baby mama and 2 ex-wives. Mm-hmm. So, the fact that we have been together for 32 years is extremely miraculous on many, many, many levels.
No, it's very true.
When you start from that.
But, we had help. Relationships that last this long require work. I mean, there's this term that everybody uses, I fell in love, falling in love. Oh. And when you fall in love, it's a very passive thing. I mean, you imagine yourself falling through space, which, it requires no effort whatsoever to fall through space. And we fall in love, and we're there, in bliss. And I remember...
it's infatuation, though.
When you're infatuated, you can look up at a telephone pole and think it's the most miraculous thing in the world, because all of a sudden life has all this extraordinary resonance and shine to it.
But
so
how long does that last?
It lasts about 18 months.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Infatuation is not sustainable.
Exactly. So were we infatuated when we first started out?
Well, it just was not a normal situation. I think that we grew to love one another because we were infatuated, but we had a lot of landmines to
well, we both came in with plenty of Louis Vuitton.
Yeah. You had a little bit more than I did.
That's true.
Because I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford any Louis Vuitton at that point. I was poor. I was not working. I just started working.
Explain to me how, wealth and emotion meet. Where does that?
Well,
where's that
you're
nexus?
talking about Louis Vuitton baggage, so I said
talking about baggage,
I didn't have that much baggage
metaphor.
because my baggage was cheaper.
Your baggage was,
but mine's more expensive now.
yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
I was coming out of a very very bad relationship one that it was very surprising to me that it turned bad so quickly. Looking back on it now, it doesn't surprise me so much, but at the time,
well, you were only married for like 11 months, right?
Yeah, hardly. I mean, and all of a sudden I wasn't. And it left me without any rudder, any sense of anchor.
No, you were rocked completely. So when I met you, you were not, a grounded Harry Hamlin.
Has there ever been such a thing?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'll go with that. So when I first saw you, which is, I don't think that was not when we first met.
No, when you first saw me was up at Shane's at the Beverly Glen Center, and I was with Peter Barton, and you were married to.
And I was sitting there with Nicolette.
And I worked up there at the eyeglass store, which we'll get into, but this was months earlier.
I was still with Nicolette, and
had you been married by that point? Probably.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so, but not for very long. But we were sitting next to the door, and I mean, I remember this like it was yesterday.
I remember it. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Come on. I mean, how often does that happen when someone walks into your life and you see them just for a flash, for a second, and you never forget that moment, okay? I mean, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
That meant there was something there, because I remember looking up. I didn't know who Peter Barton was, nor did I care. But I looked up and I saw this amazingly beautiful woman in front of me. And I went, oh, this sort of stabbed in my heart. And I looked at Nicolette, and she got very jealous if I ever looked at another woman. So I made it sure they didn't see me looking at you. But I did. It only lasted for a moment. It was like a little tiny second, and it was like, oh, there's a really beautiful woman. And then boom, I was back to my dinner. But that was the first time. But I'll never forget it, because it was that intense of a moment. And then it was many, many months later, maybe years later even.
It was
that
at
we
least
actually met.
Probably a year later. And all I remember is because I knew Nicolette. So I just was saying hi to somebody that was an acquaintance of mine, and you just happened to be her husband, and you were Harry Hamlin. I mean, you were
and I didn't know either of you.
Famous at that point. Well, you wouldn't, because Peter was on a soap opera, so you wouldn't have any idea at that point.
Anyway, cut to like a year and a half later, you're working at the eyeglass store in the night shift. You're on unemployment at the moment, right? So you're
my
doing
friend Brad, who's also your friend Brad. So we have to kind of lay that out. I'm working for my friend Brad 2 nights a week, because there's restaurants up there, and we would keep it was an eyeglass store, and it was just when we started selling designer sunglasses. So he would have the store open from 6 to 10, and I worked from 6 to 10 twice a week.
Yeah, and you were returning the keys after the night shift.
When we first met.
I was having dinner with Brad.
When we first sat down and talked, yes.
Yeah, and you came in to give him the keys, because you just closed up.
Because he wouldn't trust me with the keys. I had to always go and give him the keys.
But I didn't recognize you from the time before. You had... Maybe your hair had changed?
No, it was the same, because remember I talked about cutting my hair when I sat down to talk to you guys, and you were like, no, don't cut your hair. Whatever you do, don't cut your hair.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah.
That's the first time we've talked about that in years.
And I cut my hair right after. But you both were like, no, don't cut your hair.
Well, he invited you to sit down, and you sat down.
And have a glass of wine.
And he introduced you, and what I heard was, Harry, this is my friend Lisa Renault. And I thought, oh, that's a very interesting French name. It's very exotic. And here's this exotic-looking woman in front of me. And then you sat down, and the first thing you said was, oh, my God, I went to the circus last night. It was so sexy. And suddenly I thought, but wait, this girl is turned on by elephants, lions, and tigers? I mean,
oh my!
I thought, well, okay, so this is interesting. Maybe there's a little kink in there that would be, interesting to find out about.
It was Cirque du Soleil. I'd never seen Cirque du Soleil. It blew my mind. I'd never seen anything like it. Blew my little Medford, Oregon mind.
Well, and I've seen it since, and it's an amazing show. That's
amazing.
For darn sure. But to me, here was this girl who was like excited by the circus, like turned on by the circus. So I go, okay, there's something interesting there. And I thought your name was Lisa
Renault.
Lisa Renault.
You're so weird.
I know.
It's so weird.
In my file effects, your name is still Renault.
I know. I can't even believe it, and I'll never forget. So cut to, I don't remember a whole lot from that. Just I remember sitting down talking to you guys. You at that point were a married man. We didn't know you weren't married, but you were. to me.
I had only been separated for a few weeks at that point. Maybe
I
even
believe
less.
3 days.
Yeah.
So I went home. I didn't think twice. I just had a little chat with you guys, and I went home. And I'll never forget the next morning I was in the shower. I was in my apartment in Brentwood. We had answering machines, no cell phones. And all of a sudden, my apartment was small, so I could hear the answering machine while I was in the bathroom. I get this message from Brad saying, "Hi, Lisa, that was so fun last night. Harry really liked you, and if he were single, he would like to date you."
I know, that sounds
And
sick,
I remember
doesn't it?
thinking, well, what a sick fuck. He's married. I mean, ew. Like, ew. And that was my take on it. And I was like, whatever. And that was that.
Well, at that point, I had told no one except for Brad that my marriage had dissolved pretty much overnight.
Yeah.
As my ex ran off with a pop singer. But anyway, we met each other. We didn't see each other for a long time after. What happened? What was the next time when we met? It was like months and months went by.
Let me think. How did you call me? You ended up calling me.
Well, that was in the fall of 1992. Would have been
93.
like 92 when we first met.
Okay, so then
92, and I went and rented a house on the beach.
Yes, because
in
that's
Carbon Beach,
right.
which burned down. Wow. And I lived out there alone on the beach and didn't really contemplate anything except trying to stay alive for
Yes.
the next couple of months.
So how
because
did
I
we
was
meet back
devastated.
up? You were
Well, I
in
called
bad
you.
shape.
I remember I went to Aspen that Christmas, which was something I had been doing every Christmas. It was just one of those things that we
right.
did back then.
You were very fancy back then.
I was pretty
you were
fancy,
staying
you
at the
know.
Little Nell, doing all the like really fancy Hollywood schmoozy woozy stuff.
Well, you got that right.
You
I mean,
were.
Why not? I mean, I was.
Well, why not? And you were single and hot and
And it was the
ready
80s,
to trot.
baby. You know, and I called you. I've got your
No,
number
it was
from Brad.
90s.
I mean, it was like it was the 90s.
It
but
was
it was
the
like
early
we were
90s.
living the life of the 80s,
80s,
which was
yeah.
like very excessive life.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I called you up.
Right.
Brad gave me your number in
Right.
Oregon because you had gone up to visit your parents for
I
Christmas.
had. Like, I never missed a Christmas with my parents.
And I got your number in Oregon. And I remember calling up your house in Oregon, and
And my mom saying, "Oh my God, Harry Hamlin's on the phone for you." And I remember thinking, why is Harry Hamlin calling me in Medford, Oregon? And
well, I
you
wanted to get you to Aspen.
tried to get me to come to Aspen, and I wouldn't go. How
God.
weird is that? Like, I just was like, no. I mean, I didn't know what Aspen was at the time. I had no idea. Aspen has turned out to be a real interesting part of my history, hasn't it? Now that you think about it.
So we can get back to that at some point. But yeah.
But
you had
anyway,
some-
I did not. I remember thinking, I'm not going to go to Aspen. I don't even know this person. And Aspen, in my mind, didn't mean anything because I wasn't a working actor and I was broke and, whatever.
And
So
I'm sure if you had caved and come to Aspen, we would not be sitting here today.
you know what? I bet you're right, because I also remember we talked on the phone. You called me for 2 weeks because I was in Medford for 2 weeks. And I remember getting to know you on those phone calls. Like, at first I was like, whatever. And then I started to talk to you and think, wow, this guy's really smart. And I started to look forward to you calling. That's right.
Well,
and we
that's
kind
new
of got
news
to
me. I thought
know
you were
each other.
shining me on the whole time.
No. We started talking. You called. And then, of course, my mom was so excited every time you called. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just talk to him.
But then we stopped seeing each other. We stopped, talking
Well,
for
then-
a while.
Anyway, I don't know what happened other than you called me at one point and asked me to go on a date to Toscana. And I say yes right away. And at that point, that book, The Rules, came out. And it was like, if somebody called and asked you on a date, you're not supposed to say yes right away.
No, you're
Right?
supposed to shine them on and say no.
Like for
and
3
that's-
days or something.
Yeah, if you want to hook somebody for a husband. But you broke all the rules.
And I
when
said
I called
yes.
you up and I said, would you meet me at Toscana in an hour?
Yeah, I did it that night.
I know.
And I lived right up the street from Toscana. So it must not have seemed like a big deal to me.
Guess not. That's maybe why you came so quickly. But yeah, you showed up in in
My cute
jeans
outfit.
and jeans and a t-shirt and cowboy boots and no makeup, and I fell instantly in love with you as a result of that.
Well, and then we have to tell the story about the waiter. So this is our very first date. We've never sat alone in a restaurant getting to know each other. We've talked on the phone, but we've never sat across from each other, ever.
Except for that very first night with Brad, which was now a year before that.
Yes.
So a year's gone by.
Or something like that.
Yeah, some time. Some pretty major time.
I want to say like 8 months. Let's give it 8 months.
Okay, I'll go with 8 months. And so we're sitting there at the table, and we're having our very first conversation. And the waiter comes over, and he was a portly fellow in his 60s. Balding. And very Italian.
Very
thick Italian
very thick accent.
And the first thing he said when he looked at us, he says, "Oh my goodness," he said, "you two are destined to be together forever.
You're soulmates."
And we looked at each other and we go, "Who's this guy? I mean, why is he? This is our first date."
It was really
weird. He's going on and on about how we're going to have children together and we're going to have a great life together.
And we're soulmates. And he kept coming by. Like every time he'd bring something, he would be like, "You're soulmates and you're going to have children." Our first date. So you're like, what the?
It was way weird.
Yeah.
And kind of like too weird.
It was too weird. We were freaked out, I think. Both of us.
For sure.
You're coming off of a relationship. I'm coming off of a relationship with Peter Barton.
It's our first date, and this guy is telling us that we are destined to be soulmates and have a beautiful family together and live happily ever after.
Whole dinner. Let's talk about what happened when we went back to Toscana years later.
All right, so that's...
or a year later even. 2 years later. I don't remember.
It was a while after our first date. It might have been a year. It could have even been longer. We didn't go back to that restaurant for a while, but when we did go back... I knew the maitre d'. I had known him for years.
Yeah.
And I went up to him and I said, "Hey, where's that waiter?" Because we wanted to talk to the waiter and tell him we'd gotten together.
And
that his
I think we were married by this time.
It's quite well.
Maybe
that would
not.
have been 5 years from that.
Okay,
moment.
so maybe not. Anyway.
It was a while after. We go back to the restaurant. I go to the maitre d'. I said, "Where's that waiter who was sort of balding, who was kind of getting fat? He was about in his 60s and the waiter, the maitre d' looked at me and he said, "We never had anybody who worked here who fit that description."
And we were like, "Wait, what? Of course you did. We saw him."
Yeah. So it's like, wait a minute.
He talked to us. He called us soulmates and we would be together forever. We wanted to tell him we were together.
Yeah.
To this day, divine intervention of some kind.
I know. Well, whatever it was, the guy knew what he was talking about because here we are.
Yeah.
So then we finished the dinner. And we're still kind of amazed by that. You drive a little red Isuzu Trooper. I was driving the Porsche black Carrera fancy thing. Yeah.
Schmancy.
And I'll never forget. I walked out and you were in the parking lot. You were in your car, and I walked up.
I was on the street. I
rolled
just
down
got
the
in my
window,
car, yeah.
wherever you were. You rolled down the window, and I reached in to give you a kiss.
And I reached over to kiss you back.
It was the worst kiss I have ever had in my life.
Same.
I mean, I thought, oh, this girl's really cute, but it's not going to work because she cannot kiss.
Same. And if you can't kiss, you are bye-bye. And we both did it. It's like we both did nothing because we were like, holy shit, this is too much.
It was not a
And I thought, what
kiss.
a sad thing. He's got these gorgeous lips. He's like this hot guy and he can't kiss? Well, too fucking bad. No way.
I know. It was really disappointing. I watched you roll up the window and drive away and I thought, oh, shit.
Yeah, so did I, though. We both thought it. But I still was like, I think hoping that you would ask me out again because
and I did ask you
nobody
out, but
wants
then
to be
I
a
asked
loser.
you out again, but then I canceled it.
You sure did.
Yeah.
You asked me out on a Wednesday for Friday, and then Friday afternoon you called. I was at a phone booth. I'll never forget this because we didn't have cell phones. So I was at my acting class. I checked my answering machine, or did I call you? I don't remember. And you said, I have to cancel our dinner for Friday because my son is here.
But I'm sure I was canceling because the kiss was so bad, right? I mean, I probably was like done with you.
You were done with me. And so then I felt a bit rejected, I have to say. And then back to the Glen Center, I was with my girlfriends, and you walked by with your arms out. I'll never forget because you had really buff arms. And you had on like a sleeveless T-shirt, and you're with Marcy Joe, the spinner. You walked by with Marcy Joe, the spinner, and you were holding her hand. Yeah. It was devastating for me because you had literally like never even said anything. You canceled the dinner. And then I see you at the Glen with Marcy Joe, the spinner. I was fucking devastated. I was devastated. I was.
Well, boys will be boys.
Okay. And listen, but if we'd gotten together at that point, we'd not be sitting here, because you needed the 8 months with Marcy Joe to get the stuff out of your system. It's true. I know that now, but I remember at the time. I
know, and I was going through such an emotional crisis that I started smoking. I'd quit smoking for a long time, for a couple of years. And I started smoking again, and I was smoking like a pack and a half, 2 packs of cigarettes. You were a
fucking mess. You were a fucking mess, and I was saved. That's how the universe works. It worked for us, because if I'd gotten with you then, I don't think we would still be together. So I literally write you off. You are done, and I move on with my life, and I think I get Days of Our Lives. So I'm...
Yeah, because when we first met, you were not doing Days of Our Lives.
Yeah, so then I get Days of Our Lives, after, I think they read 211 girls, and I get the part, and I have a job, and so you are gone from my brain. So I want to say, I wish we could figure out the timeline, but we can't. So let's say 6 months later, I get a call from Brad. Maybe 8 months. I don't know. How long were you with Marcy Joe? 8 months?
I have no clue.
Well, whatever. Anyway, so I get a call from Brad. I'm living my life. I have a job. I'm working my bum off, whatever. So I get this call from Brad, who I'm still close with, and you're also close with. And he says, hey, do you want to go to a movie? We're going to go see Malcolm X. Yeah, sure. I'd love to go. Do you mind if my friend Harry comes? And I go, yeah, whatever. I don't care. He can come. You came. We saw Malcolm X, and then you follow me out to my red Isuzu Trooper. And I feel like you apologized a bit, because I went out on another date with you. I gave you another chance.
Thank God. I mean, and after that movie was not the most romantic of films. I mean,
it was
Malcolm
really
X was not exactly a date movie, right?
But isn't it a weird story when you play it back and you're like, how? And then that was January probably, and we started to go out, and then by February, when my dog was hit by a car, which is so tragic.
Yeah, that was a tragic moment, but it's what brought us together.
I know, and then I moved into your house.
Little Max, your Scottish Terrier,
Black little Scotty.
Scottish Terrier.
He was only a year and a half. It's a really sad story.
He was the cutest dog ever, but he was a pain in the ass.
I know. He used to bark at the chair. He would bark at the chair.
And he would dig through the carpet to get to China.
You actually hated Max.
And he would dig through the carpet, and I don't know what he was digging for, but...
And he would bark at the chair.
Anyway,
I know. But Max, he was my friend. I'd never had anything, and I'd never lost anything like that, and it was devastating.
And
then I ended up moving into your house,
stayed
and
the night on
never
February the 14th.
Left 13th.
The 13th, the night of the 13th, into the 14th, and then we buried.
Never left.
I'll never forget that it was thunder and lightning, and I went down on the side of the hill and I buried him.
I know, and I sat there and watched, and it was like lightning and thunder, and there's not a lot of lightning and thunder in LA. People need to know that. It's not part of this weatherscape.
No, it isn't, and it was very unusual to have that kind of weather. Yeah, no, it was a big moment weather-wise, and then we were burying the dog in the side of the hill, and the wind was blowing, and the rain was coming down, and you spent the night.
He was in a shoebox.
And you really never left after that. That was
I even bought a house to make a stand for myself. I'm going to buy this house and, put my money somewhere right. And I think I slept in the house 5 days.
Maybe. I don't know that you ever slept there.
Imagine if we'd kept that house.
If we'd kept that house now, it would be worth a fortune. Yeah. But anyway. So
that's it.
So it's interesting to us. Is it interesting to anybody else?
I don't know if it will be.
Meet and how you get together. But people always ask us that question. At least they ask me.
Now
how did you
know
meet
it.
Lisa?
Now they know it. It's on record now.
Yeah. But here's the thing about the fact that we love each other, we support each other, we have each other's backs, we have for 30 some odd years. And how does that happen? because when kids get together, they fall in love, they have great relationships that last about 18 months, and then all of a sudden all hell breaks loose. Who knows how to deal with anything when all of a sudden your feet turn to clay and you start devaluing the person around you. Suddenly, you hear their jaw click when they eat, or their breath stinks, or they don't like the way they leave the toothpaste in the sink, or something about them begins to bug you. And how did we get through that?
Well, we did go to therapy right away.
Yeah, that's the thing.
A year in, we went right to therapy because you were fucked up. And so was I. But you were, you didn't want to get married again, and I can't blame you. You were really having a hard time committing. I mean, we were together for 5.5 years before we got married. That's a long time. So the therapy was so important, and thank God we had a really amazing therapist that we both saw separately and we saw her together, and I think that laid a foundation for us. But I also wonder why we don't bug the shit out of each other, because we don't.
I think we learned that when you start to devalue somebody, you check yourself. Now we recognize when the devaluation process begins. And so you check yourself. You say, well, wait a minute, is that real, or is that an illusion?
Right.
Am I cooking up something to be annoyed about with the person that I'm with? Because really, you can fall in love for the first 18 months or so, but then after that, you've got to make love. Yeah. You make it.
Yeah, you
do.
Create
love.
You basically, when we've always said that, you choose somebody that you want to spend your life with to make it work.
And every time I have made those vows, I have made them forever, and I've made them
I'm
3
sorry
times.
To laugh.
Well, it's true.
I'm sorry.
But I mean, I was sincere both of the other 2 times.
Of course, I would imagine everybody
vows.
is when they do it.
And I finally chose someone who had the same idea of sincerity and taking a vow. Which I think is also really important. But then you just never know.
You don't ever know.
But there's always this thing, for young people particularly, and having been one, I remember the idea.
You've been a young person?
Yes, not anymore. But the idea that the grass is greener. Comes up all the time. And, if you start to think that, and you start to think, well, maybe there's something better out there. Maybe I'm missing something. It's kind of a sort of love-lorn
Well,
FOMO.
Isn't that why people have affairs?
Absolutely. But it always turns out badly. I mean,
of course it does.
Has any affair ever turned out well?
Well, I mean, a lot of people end up getting married to the people that they cheat with.
Yeah, but then look what happens.
And usually, listen, once a cheater, always a cheater. That's what I have to say.
I think maybe that's the truth.
So if you cheat and then you end up marrying your wife you cheated with, you're probably going to cheat again. Now, I'm no relationship expert.
But I've seen that happen over and over and over and over again. Relationships that start that way oftentimes end that way too.
I think that once you're a cheater, always a cheater. And I think we just got lucky because I trust you. I don't get jealous. I think you trust me. You don't get jealous. We could be jealous monsters, both of us. And I'm not. I am not jealous. And I don't think you are either.
I'm not at all.
But I also trust you.
Well, I think it comes down to that. In a relationship, if you support each other and you believe in each other and you trust each other, what can go wrong, really? I mean,
But I think that's important to say, because I don't think that if you asked 25 different relationships if they really trust their partner, I'm not sure that you'd get an answer of, yes, I really trust my partner. I think it's rare. I mean, if I look at all my friends, like, they have moments of jealousy with their spouses and they don't trust, like, one of them's like DMing young girls and shit. Like, I would never, like, if I found out you were DMing young girls or young boys or whatever, I would laugh and I'd be like, no. How would he even know how to do that? But
well, I don't know how to do that, but nevertheless, I mean,
do you know what I mean? Like,
you have the
I trust you.
The code to my phone. I have the code to your phone. We don't hide anything. I have never. You keep a journal. I keep a journal. I have never looked at your journal. You've never looked at mine.
But most people do that kind of stuff. I think.
And that's where you get into trouble. If you start rooting around through people's drawers and stuff, that's over. I mean, that's when things get into a real problem.
I mean, I just don't have the need to do it. But I think that most people have an insecurity about the relationship, and I if you have security, you don't end up going down that rabbit hole. And I think that's where we've been really, 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 really lucky. And we've tried to teach the kids that also.
It's a tough thing to teach.
Yeah.
Look, we learned that over years and years of therapy and having different relationships that have worked out and some have not. Most of the ones before didn't. But, now our kids are having relationships and we're watching that.
I know,
and
it's
watching
so
them
hard
go through
not
that.
to like get involved.
No, you got to let them have, they have to learn. They have to learn the hard way,
God,
unfortunately,
it makes
the way
me
we did.
nervous wreck.
Yeah, I mean, you got to let them make those mistakes.
I know, because that's how you learn. But don't you think it's so hard? I think that's one of the hardest things about being a parent is to let your kids fail and let your kids fall down.
And see how they get up, because that's what it's all about. It's about, how you react to those kind of calamities in your life, not the calamities themselves, because life is filled with that. I mean, as I was saying yesterday to Delilah, life has lots of ups and downs. I mean, nothing is ever smooth all the way through, and it's how you react to the downs and the ups that I think create the quality of your life and create the character that you're going to carry through with your life. So
you are spouting really good therapy stuff today, I would say. You and I, between the two of us, we have read so many books, had so much therapy. We are non-experts, but we're life experts, I would say, in a lot of ways. Like going through shit and being so fucked up and being so like rock bottom, learning how to pull yourself up out of that. I think we have that.
Whoa. We got to rewind here. Where was the rock bottom? Was that the emotional rock bottom for me after the rock star
many
thing?
times I've had that where I can't get a job, I have no money, I'm totally fucked up. I've had that so much.
Well, thank God we're not living that life right now.
No, but we have moments of
life has its vicissitudes. Absolutely,
And how do you rise up and get through it? It's about how you react. I think the theme is how you react. It's a very good thing to think about.
Yeah, because it's up to us. I mean, look, if you look at movies and the conventional way people react to pain and suffering or to death,
it's
just
to
the
like
loss, whatever like that.
Drink and smoke and shop and gamble and fuck it away.
Punch your fist through the wall or whatever. And you see these movies where, something terrible has happened in the scientist's life and he walks into the lab and he breaks all the test tubes and throws everything to the side. That's your amygdala taking control at that moment.
Oh my God, you lost me there.
What? It's that part of your brain that,
you lost me on that one.
Well, I mean, what you want to do is be in control all the time because, we're in control of our thinking.
Yeah, but sometimes I like to be a little out of control because I'm too much of a control freak. So how do you deal with that?
Like, explain to me allowing yourself to be out of control.
I don't want to have to control every situation so I feel safe. I want to be able to just not control it.
So how do you make that happen?
By letting go.
Okay, and just letting whatever happen.
That's hard for a control freak like me.
Well, that's true.
And you too.
Well, would you say that we're control freaks?
Yes.
Really?
But in a good way.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's a bad way, but I think you and I both have issues with wanting to control. Yes, I do.
Well, that's true. I mean, look, we all want to know that the next day in our life, what's coming in our lives is going to be smooth and lovely and make us feel good. But the fact is that there is no future. It doesn't exist until it happens.
That's right.
So
but we want to try to control it.
We want to try to control it to make sure that it's going to be fluid and nice and comfortable and warm and cozy. But it just isn't that way, you know. So we got to basically take things as they come and be able to handle them as they come as well, you know.
It's a nice idea, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah, well, they live in the moment. You got to be right here, right now. And I think, you know, one of the things that you and I have done, and I think is important to pass on to our kids, is that we never set expectations. Or if we did, we were aware of it.
We did.
And, well, I mean, the thing about if you set expectations, it's a resentment waiting to happen.
Which you've always said over and over.
It doesn't work out the way your brain thinks it's going to work out or whatever. So, well, we've always lived kind of in the moment and never thought too much about the way things should be or,
anytime we have, it gets me into trouble because you're always disappointed. Always.
Oftentimes, yeah. I mean, it's never quite meets up to the idea you have in your imagination.
No.
But if you just take it as it comes, live each moment as it comes, which we have done, here we are, 30-some odd years later.
Well, we try to do it. I try to do it every day. I have to work on it every single day.
It doesn't come naturally. Why that is? I mean, why we can't just live in the moment?
Because of our thoughts.
And
You're thinking of your past and your future, and your past and your future. You're never just present, and that is the goal. And it's impossible. I mean, I'd like to be Eckhart Tolle, but I'm not. I try. It's impossible.
Do you think Eckhart Tolle is Eckhart Tolle?
Probably not.
Everybody, we all have to, and even the people who are masters at this have to, step back and go, but wait a minute, I have to be aware of, the fact that my thoughts are going off in the wrong direction or whatever.
It is a challenge.
Yeah. No, it's always, you always have to be vigilant and, especially about setting plans for the future, because the future doesn't exist.
Should we play a game? Should we do our wheel?
I don't know. Is it that time? Eve?
I think it might be time.
It's that time.
Is it time?
Harry's
okay,
wheel
let's do it.
of wild cards.
All right.
Spin it and...
Spinning the wheel. Okay. We have today's topic, which is 23andMe. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Have you guys done it? What do you think about
that
it?
down? Oh, God.
Well, okay, so we have in my office there are 2 unopened 23andMe boxes that we've both over the years we have reached out and sent for them, but do not have the whatever it takes to send them in. I don't want to know. I mean, for one thing, I don't want to know.
I'd want to know, but you tell me if I do it, then I'm in some database or something.
Well, that's true also. I mean, well, look, okay, 23andMe is a perfect example. Like a couple of years ago.
A year ago, 6 months ago.
There was a huge database, and all the people's data, all their information about their genome goes out into the universe. Okay, that's what I was wary about to begin with,
and
right?
you scared me enough to not do it.
So we're not in that database anywhere,
Yeah, but we're in the iPhone database with the Chat GPT and the AI. We're fucked.
And they listen to us all the time.
We're fucked.
I know. I mean.
But anyway, I know we never did 23andMe.
We didn't do 23andMe. And in fact, I think to answer my own question, because these are my things, right? And I put that down because I wanted to talk about it because we've never, look, those things are in the office. And do you want to do it ever? Do you want to find out what if we have a predisposition to Alzheimer's, do we want to know that?
I'm not sure I want to know. I don't know. I'm on the fence about that kind of thing. Because remember when I went just to do that body scan, which is a great thing to be able to do.
That was a full body scan, right? From your head to your toes,
and I felt really grateful to be able to do it.
Was it an MRI? What kind of a body scan was it? Were you in a thing where it made a lot of noise?
Yeah. No, like it's a major one.
How long did it take?
40 minutes?
Yeah,
I don't know.
So you probably...
It was a major one. And I got to tell you, it scared me. Like I had little minor things that were nothing. But remember, I had to go have a chest x-ray after because they found like little things on my lungs. I'm 50-50. Like I like to know, but then it also freaked me out.
Yeah.
Like, would you want to know the date you're going to die?
The exact day and time?
What if you had that possible information? Would you want to know?
I mean, wasn't there like I think there was a Twilight Zone about that.
Probably.
Wasn't there or something? Yeah.
Would you?
No, I would not.
I don't think I would either,
No.
but then again,
I
you
want
go...
death to be a surprise.
God, we're getting heavy. But again, you go, what if I knew? Maybe I would live life fuller to the fullest and do things that...
Well, there are people who say, try to imagine that this is the last week of your life and how you would live your life if this was the last week. And that's hard to do. It's
really
hard to imagine that. I don't like to think about that. But,
Anyway.
I mean, I'm in my 7th decade, so there is that. I mean, it's...
Well, yeah, does it start to creep in and you start to go...
Yeah, I mean, sure, you start to think about your mortality.
I'm starting to think about my mortality. When you lose your parents, you really start to think about your mortality. I mean, really is when it hits you. Oh my God, that's another episode. We got to hold this. This is too much. We got
so anyway, so that's
grief and all sorts of
23andMe.
things.
So did we cover 23andMe? Are we going to do it or not? What about the ancestor thing? How about wanting to
I'd
find
like to
out?
do that. I'd like to go on one of those shows where they take you down that ancestor road and you find out
Yeah.
like you were related to a king or a queen or something. I would like to do that. So I just put that out there.
Let's get a genealogist on the podcast.
Let's get a genealogist on the podcast.
Okay.
Let's do it.
let's do
Calling
it.
all genealogists.
Calling all genealogists. Eve had a great idea. I like that idea. All right, great. Well, this was fun.
Yeah. Okay. Lovely to see you in this environment like this. You look great. I like your hair like that.
Do you like my hair like that? I
Yeah.
had no time, and I chose to run some errands before this, and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go with it.
It's very corporate. I like it.
It's corporate.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in a corporate situation.
Yeah.
I'm hustling again. I'm back to my hustle. That's what it came to me today. Someone asked me, why are you doing a podcast? And I went, because I'm a fucking hustler.
Okay.
That's what I said. Because I'm a hustler.
Oh, I'm glad I'm married to a hustler.
Because I'm a hustler.
Yeah. Okay.
It was actually our neighbor asked, and I said, because I hustle. She goes, yes, you do.
Good.
So there you go.
Thanks for listening,
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah.
See you next time on Let's Not Talk About the Husband.